Video is on, but I cannot see you. So good morning, everyone. I hope you all having a great summer. It's going really quick. Dawn, could you do the roll call, please?
Yes, first I just want to remind folks that we are live streaming and recording this meeting. Both of those have started, and say thank you to CTN for their interest in live streaming our meetings. Jerry Abrahams?
Here.
Cindy Butts? Phil DeFranzo? Heidi DeWeingart?
Here.
Claudio Gualtieri?
Here.
Timothy Hodges?
Here.
Catherine McKinnon. Oh, sorry. Thank you, Tim. Catherine McKinnon.
Here.
Commissioner Mascara Bruno.
Here.
Commissioner Perez. Franklin Perry.
Here.
Matt Puglisi. Chelsea Ross.
Here.
Sarah Sanders.
Here.
Lisa Tupper Bates.
Here.
Greg Ugalde.
Present.
Thank you. And let me just go back and Phil, we're in roll call. I see you just joined us.
Yes,
Phil
I'm here.
DeFranzo. Great.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Commissioner, we do have a quorum for the meeting.
Thank you, Dawn. Could you also, next item on the agenda is the public comments. Could you please proceed with that?
Of course. This is the only opportunity on the agenda for the public to provide comments. If you would like to provide a comment, please unmute yourself and state your name, or if you're in the room, please let us know. To ensure that everyone has the opportunity, comments will be limited to 3 minutes. Hearing no request for public comments, the public comment period has now ended. Commissioner?
Thank you, Dawn. Now we will have the report from the Executive Director, CEO, Anthony. Could you please
Yes.
go ahead?
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. We have a few people in the room today, but we miss you. We'd like to see you in person more often, so we'll continue to work on that.
I've got to forward it to you. I'm sorry.
Okay.
That somebody's not on mute. Wanted to share that we had a really interesting conversation this morning at Finance Committee about the home ownership report that we provide to Mortgage Committee on a quarterly basis. And Kayla Giordano presented a number of different facets of our home ownership program. And there was an interest in seeing that report not more frequently, but on a quarterly basis and perhaps for the entire board. So we're going to be considering that. But there were some really good questions and it was a good discussion. But I wanted to focus my remarks today on the rebrand, which is something, as you know, we've been working on for a while. I'm really excited to announce that we have a new logo that we've selected after a lot of work that's going to define our brand for the coming decade. So just to recap, we had introduced this initiative to you back in June of 2023, so it's just over a year. And the purpose of the rebrand is to align our brand and logo with our mission and vision, to refresh it. Organizations go through this every so often. We want to look at the image we're projecting to the public. We want to emphasize our ability to provide competitive financing solutions and perhaps even be seen as a go-to resource for affordable housing needs in the state. The rebrand ideally should reflect the talents and passions of our employees, and it should position us as a leader in the field. So the process involved working with a design firm that took in some key landscape information from a variety of partners and stakeholders who work with CHFA and perhaps those who have more limited interactions with us. And we sought out their views their perceptions, their aspirations. And then we also checked in with our employees because we wanted to know what they would view as important representations of us. And so through a process of iterative design and refinement, I'm excited, drum roll, to reveal our new logo. Dawn, you wanna take it away? Okay.
Okay.
So I wanted to spend a little time talking to you about how we got here. So, you know, what helps me, or what helped me understand what this really means, and I'm hoping it will help you, is to connect to each of the thematic elements in the design. So that you can see there's quite a large C, and you know, it represents a number of things. Obviously, C and Connecticut are you know, interrelated. It is close, not exactly, but close to the state's own rebranded logo. The C is a semicircle, which in design philosophy, you know, is not a full circle. So a circle implies movement, collaboration, but a half circle or a partial circle insinuates that there's more to do. And I think that is an important sort of statement for us to make. The symbol in the middle is a keyhole, for those of you who didn't recognize it. And keyholes have been around for hundreds of years as powerful metaphors. In this case, we identify it as unlocking something, providing access. The idea of there being potential solutions, that there are potentially unknown solutions or innovative solutions out there. It also, to me anyway, looks a little bit like human, and you know, reminding us of the human being that is at the center of the mission and purpose of our organization. The tagline is unlocking solutions, building strong communities. You know, we're using very constructive words here, words that imply that there's a constructive element to the work. It reminds us of our role as a financing agency, which will empower us to craft solutions that allow for greater access to homeownership, to affordable housing, opportunities, including homeownership. And also there's an explicit connection between the work we do and the communities we strengthen, which is a statement that is sometimes challenged by those who view affordable housing in a negative light. So I think the logo is everything we set out to achieve, which is, it's something that is energetic, it's bold, aspirational, yet realistic, redefining and elevating the purpose of affordable housing creation and financing. So our work isn't done. I wouldn't want to leave you the impression that, you know, our makeover is skin deep. Underlying all of this is the organizational transformation that we've set out to do through our strategic planning efforts. Later this morning, you're going to have a chance to approve proposed changes to our procedures, our multifamily procedures, which serve as regulations that are required by statute. And often these requirements can be quite prescriptive, limiting even, because they serve as the basis for how we conduct our business. And we are proposing to adopt a number of changes that will provide us significant flexibility in the procedures that we can then leverage to look at every single process and guideline with the object of using that flexibility to reduce the time and cost of the process. So that's just an example of the evolutionary change management that is being undergone at the authority today, and that our brand is now going to start signifying and reinforcing.
Mhm.
And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Marcus Smith to talk a little bit about what the next steps might be in the rebrand initiative.
Great, thanks, Nandini. Yeah, so Marcus Smith, Director of Research, Marketing, and Outreach. So I think it's important to note that, yes, we have a new logo, which is very exciting. I mean, a lot of us are here, you're very eager to get going with it. But the brand is more than just the logo. And I think just trying to activate some of those elements that you talked about, Nandini, right? Whether it's unlocking opportunity or leading in times and partnering in other times, or moving through this work with a solution-oriented mindset. We've already started doing a lot of that, and I think the brand is going to be kind of emblematic of a lot of that, the work that we're going to be doing now and going forward. When you think about time to own and smart rate and these other things that we're doing, so what the next 30 days look like for us as we try to bring this brand to life and bring it out into the world includes some internal homework, things like working with our design agency to build those slide decks, those letterheads, the business cards, the kind of the nitty-gritty things, the places where the brand shows up most auspiciously. Also on the externally facing places like our social media platforms, our website, brochures and other materials that our marketing team and our homeownership team might bring out to different events and provide to partners. And then as we get closer to launching, figuring out what that media campaign might look like, right? Whether it's working with media partners in the TV and radio space, putting out digital ads on social media and on the internet, various places where we might want to push our brand out and introduce ourselves or reintroduce ourselves, as it may be. So those are going to be the things that we're going to be working on over the next few weeks. And we're asking everybody, please be patient. Don't take a screenshot and send this and put this out too quickly. We're working on and moving meaningfully and intentionally through this so that we're consistent across all platforms and all communications. That's what we'll be working on for the next month.
Great. Thank you, Marcus.
Sure.
So that ends my report. I'm happy to take any questions or comments at this time.
Thank you, Nandini. This is exciting. Board members, anybody has comment, questions?
Super exciting.
I love the logo. I think it's great.
Thank you.
Really, and I see a lot of this. I've been involved in corporate rebrandings, and it's usually you move from one to another without a real improvement. But I think you should be congratulated. It's a really great logo. Simple, clear.
Of course, I have
Anybody-
to comment on the tagline and appreciation for the alignment on building strong communities. Now, I really appreciate that as the partnership for strong communities and all the work that goes into the rebrand. So great job, Nandini, Marcus, and team.
Yeah, good work. Just echoing all that others have said. It looks really good and it was much needed.
Okay. Moving on. Thank you, Nandini. Thank you, staff. Looking forward to the marketing and receiving more information. Then our next item on the agenda is our annual training with the Office of State Ethics. Sarah Clark is going to present the training.
Good morning. I'm here today also with our Executive Director, Peter Lewandowski. I don't know if he wanted to say anything before I jump right in. I know we're trying to keep this as brief as possible while being comprehensive.
Yeah, I'll just want to thank you for having us. This is your annual training, obviously an abbreviated version in recognition of your agenda. But just want to stress one thing. Keep in mind that we are your resource. So any questions you have, please direct to our attention, and we'll help you out in anything you may have relative to ethics questions. But I'll let Sarah do the presentation.
Thank you, Peter. So the rules of engagement, the codes of ethics cover in the state of Connecticut officials, employees, lobbyists, and state contractors. And we're going to go through, we're going to go through 6 sections today, and each of these sections will be wrapped up by a scenario so you can understand how this would work out in real life. we can jump right in. If you remember nothing else from today's presentation, we are the other call before you dig agency. So please call us, let us help you navigate your decision-making beforehand. Don't call us with things that have already happened, because we can help you stay within the guardrails of the codes of ethics. And here's our contact information. It's also going to be on the last page, so don't worry about jotting it down too quickly. But we're here at your disposal when you need assistance. You also have a resource in your office, as every other agency does, and Teresa Calderon. This is the contact person. She can either serve as a conduit between our office and yours, or she is the expert on your specific agency policy at CHFA, whereas today's presentation is going to be going over the statewide ethics code that all state employees and public officials have to abide by. So number one, the use of your state position. This is the overarching theme for all 6 of our subsections. And think of lanes on the highway with a solid line. You want to keep your state position in its own dedicated space, and it doesn't commingle with your personal life or your other financial endeavors. You may not use your state position for your own financial gain, the financial gain of your spouse, child, spouse, parent, or sibling, or the financial gain of your associated business. So as an example, in your private employment outside of your work for CHFA, you provide financial investment consultancy to private clients. You're planning to launch a new interactive website and increase your social media presence to promote your services. In promoting your services online, can you include the fact that you are connected to CHFA? So in a biographical sense, we understand this is part of who you are and what you do in your resume, your CV, your LinkedIn page. When you're talking about yourself in totality, it's perfectly acceptable to connect your employment with CHFA or your board service with CHFA. When we're talking about your promotional narrative, your advertising materials, that's where it's inappropriate for you to continually weave your connection to the state agency, so that way you're advertising your extra qualifications or why you should be hired over anyone else. So it's a gray area, but keeping it biographical, great. Promotional narrative, bad. Thank you. Gifts. Anything of value that's either personally or directly received, unless you're providing equal or greater valued consideration. Gifts from restricted donors are prohibited unless they're provided under an applicable gift exception. And you deal with restricted donors and non-restricted donors. So when we're talking about restricted donors, those are lobbyists, those who are regulated by, doing, or seeking to do business with CHFA, or those on the Department of Administrative Services pre-qualified vendor or contractor list. There are 19 total gift exceptions by which you can still receive limited amounts of gifts from these restricted donors. And the most common ones are token items. So the stress balls, your pens, your mugs, things like that, like basic mugs. They have to be $10 or less in value, and you can accept up to $50 worth of these $10 or less items from every restricted donor source per year. When it comes to food or beverage, you need the restricted donor is going to be with you when you partake of this food or beverage, and you can receive up to $50 worth of food or beverage from a single source. So you can't go out with every lobbyist in that firm. That particular firm is able to provide you with up to $50 worth of food or beverage. With rebates or discounts, we're talking about things like Verizon Wireless, who's a registered client lobbyist in Connecticut. They offer a governmental employee discount. It's not that great, but you may avail yourself of that discount just as every other government employee is able to, because it's not singling you out for your connection to CHFA. Similarly, ceremonial plaques, you can be awarded, for outstanding service, a work anniversary, something outstanding. That plaque can be worth up to $100 with the inscription of your name on it from that restricted donor. With conferences, there are active and passive participation. So you might be on a panel, you might be a keynote speaker, or you could be attending the conference simply to absorb the knowledge and bring it back to use here in Connecticut. You can receive in either capacity, travel, lodging, meals, or related conference expenses as long as they're not considered lavish. The test we're asking you to employ is it what the state would be willing to pay? So the state isn't going to pay for a presidential suite or first class travel, just, you know, the bare bones basics when you're getting around to these conferences. Same thing with your meals, you know, it's just basic meals. But and additionally, you may not receive any sort of compensation in fees or honoraria for your participation in the event. And if there are any entertainments that are offered after hours, like if everyone's going to a musical production or a basketball game, you can participate, but you do need to pay for your ticket to go. You can't receive that on the house. There are certain instances where you're traveling out of state and there's a private entity that's sponsoring the conference. And in those instances, you will need to disclose what you're receiving. And there's a form on our website that asks you a series of questions. Were you traveling out of state? Was the entity that was, sponsoring the conference either a state government entity, a federal government entity, or something else? And so it'll walk you through whether or not you do need to actually make the disclosure, but it is required when you're dealing with non-government entity sponsored conferences out of state. Thank you. It's going to happen in the event that you do receive a prohibited gift. Say you've given an outstanding service and someone wants to say thank you. What do? You have a few options. You will either immediately refuse or return the gift that does not meet any applicable gift exception, or you can make the gift a gift to the state. You can turn it into something that your entire agency or office can use. You can donate it to a charity. You also can pay that donor fair market value for the gift within 30 days. Please feel free to call us. This is something that we do get frequent questions about. But, just as an example, if you get a gift basket for providing outstanding service to someone, and it's going, the things are going to spoil, or, it's not going to be an easy return because you're going to have to go locate the person and all that. You can send out a all stack email and say, gift basket in the conference room, please help yourself. And that brings the per person value of that gift down, and it makes it a gift to the state. So then that way you're taking a prohibited gift if you had accepted it personally and kept it and made it permissible because you're sharing it with the entire office. Your longtime friend gets hired by the government relations department of a Fortune 500 company. The company is a registered client lobbyist NCT. You are going out to dinner and he wants to pay for it. Can your friend pay for your dinner? So again, you have to ask a few questions in order for it to be permissible. Is your friend paying for dinner personally, or is the company going to be paying for dinner? If the company itself is paying for dinner, then you're able to avail yourself of up to $50 worth of dinner, and you'll pay up, you'll pay down the difference from there. If your friend is paying ultimately, and he himself is not a registered lobbyist, because he could be working in the government relations department, but not have to be a registered lobbyist, then he can personally pay as your longtime friend for the entire dinner. In the event that he is a registered lobbyist, then he too would be held to that $50 limit, and you would pay for the rest. For conflicts of interest, we're going to talk about direct or potential conflicts, and then appearances of conflict of interest. So when you're talking about substantial conflicts of interest, it's handled a little bit differently between board members and staff members. But when you have reason to believe or expect that you, your spouse, dependent child, or associated business will obtain a direct monetary gain or suffer a direct monetary loss by reason of your official activity in a way that's distinctly different from others in the same profession or group, staff needs to recuse themselves by providing a written statement to their supervisor, and then their supervisor will assign that specific task to someone of equal or higher rank. When you are on the board, then you just need to recuse yourself, and so you wouldn't be taking any official action on that specific matter. When we're talking about associated businesses, these are entities to which you are tied that you have a financial interest in. So many of us volunteer our time, we're serving on boards and, you know, other things that are nonprofit, and you don't derive any sort of financial gain from your involvement. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about when the CHFA is making decisions that's going to specifically affect a company in which you are, you know, a part owner of, or on the board of, or, you know, you run outside of your state job. When it comes to potential conflicts of interest, it's a bit broader. So your official action would affect the financial interest of you, your spouse, your parent, your sibling, your child, their spouse, or your associated business. There's no requirement that that financial impact is going to be direct, just a reasonable expectation that it occurs. Again, but in a way that's distinctly different from a substantial segment of the public. So in this case, staff, again, you'll need to recuse yourself via a written statement. This can be as simple as an email to your supervisor. And then for board members, you need to recuse yourself, or you can provide a statement in the meeting that would be put into the minutes so it's on the written record. So your spouse is a developer and wants to obtain a contract from the Connecticut Housing Finance Authority. Can you utilize your connections to cut through the red tape and expeditiously get the application through the process? And in this case, that's a flat no. When it comes to appearances of a conflict, the Office of State Ethics does not have jurisdiction. We would encourage you to talk to your HR, talk to Terry Calderon, talk to your supervisor, and make people aware. If your spidey sense is up that you think something might be a problem, you should use your best judgment and discretion. Think about things appearing on the front page of the newspaper. If it's going to be on the Hartford Courant, is that going to look bad for you? Is it going to look bad for CHFA? And employ the optics test. What I'm saying is that we're not able to tell you or advise you against acting because of appearances only, but we would certainly alert you to the risk of there being appearances of a conflict of interest. When it comes to outside employment, it must not impair your independence of judgment. You may not disclose confidential information. You may not use your state position for the benefit of your outside employment. When it comes to contracts with the state, quasi-public agency board exercises control when it's their subject matter. Board members may not contract with the agency unless the contract process is open and public. Absolutely anybody should be able to apply for these contracts when it deals with your specific subject matter and it can't specifically favor your board members. Additionally, the executive head of your agency as a quasi-public agency may not contract with the agency. Our last section on revolving door provisions, this is dealing with what comes after you are finished with your state service. There are 2 lifetime bans. One is the disclosure of confidential information. You can never use confidential information for the financial gain of yourself or another person. And you also are banned from representing another company concerning matters in which you participated in when you were inside CHFA. With 1-year bans, there is a cooling off provision, which is representing others before CHFA. You can represent people in front of state government generally, just not your former agency. And also you may not be employed by a party to a contract that's valued at over $50,000 per year, just for that first year following your state service. So upon leaving state service, you join a lobbying firm that engages in both legislative and executive branch lobbying. Can you represent clients before legislative committees immediately upon leaving state service? In this case, this is a yes. You can. You can even represent clients in front of the housing committee at the legislature. You just simply can't represent people for pay in front of CHFA. So for a couple of highlights of our enforcement process, enforcement of the codes of ethics is initiated by a complaint. It's either filed by members of the public or by the ethics enforcement officer. We treat complaints as with absolute confidentiality no questions asked. When we receive the complaint, while the investigation is open, it remains strictly confidential. There's an incredible onus upon people for their personal and professional reputations when dealing with ethics complaints. So our staff needs to go through an investigatory process, and then if they find reason to believe that there is a violation of the ethics code, it's brought to a judge trial referee, and the judge trial referee would analyze and agree, yes, this is something that should be pursued, and then the board would then vote on it, and at that point, it would become open to the public. But we don't even confirm the existence of complaints ahead of that specific point in the process. Once the board has ruled and found that there's been a violation of the code of ethics, the respondent will either be ordered to comply with the code in the future, file any required reports or statements, or possibly pay a civil penalty of up to $10,000 per violation. As you go about your business at CHFA, there are communication channels within your agency where you can alert people to when things seem like they're not really working within the code of ethics. You can talk to your ethics liaison, your agency counsel, or human resources. You also can have an anonymous conversation with the Office of State Ethics. When you give us a phone call and you tell us, I want to stay anonymous, then you can talk to our legal division, and then they'll refer you to the ethics enforcement officer should it be dealing with past action. But you can provide your tip to the Office of State Ethics under complete anonymity. So that way you are protected and you are able to have a vehicle to report things without being concerned about the aftermath, by being the person who, shed light on this specific situation. That being said, there are also mandatory reporters at every agency and quasi-public agency, which includes the agency head, their deputies, persons in charge of procurement, contracting, or human resources. They are considered mandatory reporters, and they are statutorily obligated to report to the Office of State Ethics if they have reasonable cause to believe that someone has violated the ethics code. And anytime we receive something from these mandatory reporters, it's considered an anonymous complaint. Thank you. That was my last piece. So thank you. That was the very abridged version, and we are happy to handle any questions if you have any at this point, or you can always reach out to us via email, phone, and then you can have a bunch of resources on our website.
Thank you, Sarah, for that training. We're looking forward every year to hear some of things that will keep us out of trouble. Any question for Sarah or comments? All right. Well, thank you very much for the presentation, Sarah.
You're very welcome. We look forward to working with you.
Great. Our next item on the agenda is Finance Committee has a resolution, and Hazin is going to present that resolution.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the board. For your consideration is a resolution to authorize CHFA to issue up to 500 million of the Housing Mortgage Finance Program bonds in multiple issuances. The sale will allow CHFA to raise additional lending proceeds for the second half of calendar year 2024 and fund about 2,000 first-time homebuyer loans. As of July 15, CHFA had an aggregate net pipeline of about 293.5 million. Based on the interest rate environment, CHFA expects to utilize a fixed rate structure and also expects to close the first issuance as early as September. To leverage CHFA tax-exempt issuance capacity, CHFA intends to supplement the issuance with taxable bonds. The resolution was presented to Finance Committee this morning, and the committee asked questions regarding the bond structure and the senior managers for the sale. The resolution was approved unanimously by committee, and I'll be happy to answer any question the board may have at this time.
Thank you, Hazin. Can I have a motion to approve resolution presented by Hazin?
So moved.
Have a second?
I'll second Chelsea.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, Dawn, could you do roll call, please?
Of course. Jerry Abrahams,
Aye.
Cindy Butts, Phil DeFranzo,
Yes.
thank you. Heidi DeWeingart,
Aye.
Claudio Gualtieri,
Yes.
Timothy Hodges,
Aye.
Catherine McKinnon,
Aye.
Commissioner Mascara Bruno,
Yes.
Commissioner Perez, Franklin Perry,
Yes.
Matt Puglisi,
Yes.
Chelsea Ross,
Yes.
Sarah Sanders,
Aye.
Lisa Tupper Bates,
Yes.
Greg Ugalde.
Aye.
Vote passes unanimously.
Motion carries. Thank you, Dawn. And that is for the Finance Committee. Mortgage Committee has 4 items that we need to approve. So the first one will be the resolution for the financing of the 1600 New Britain Avenue project in Farmington. Pat, could you please proceed?
Certainly. Good morning, everybody. On Tuesday at Mortgage Committee, Steve Norris presented a request for financing for 1600 New Britain Avenue in Farmington. The request included a mortgage of up to $23.4 million from taxable bonds in a 2-note structure. The first is a construction note of up to $15.5 million, payable interest only at a rate of 7.25% for a term of 24 months. And the second note is a construction, a permanent note of up to $7.9 million at a rate of up to 7.25%, payable interest only during the 24-month construction period, and then fully amortizing thereafter over a 35-year term. In addition, the request included a mortgage from opportunity funds of up to $1 million at a rate not to exceed 1%, payable interest only during the 24-month construction term, and then accruing during the 35-year term and payable with 25% of adjusted cash flow after the repayment of deferred developer fee. 1600 New Britain Avenue received a 9% LIHTC award in the 2024 round earlier this year. The developer Metro Realty Group has a demonstrated ability to deliver its projects on time and under budget. Metro is committed to closing this transaction within 90 days of this board approval. The project will consist of 90 total units, 17 units at or below 30% of AMI, 36 units at or below 50%, 15 at or below 80%, and 22 unrestricted units. In addition to the requested CHFA financing, the capital stack includes $17.5 million in LIHTC equity, $5.5 million in DOH funds, $1.8 million in a GP note, $1.6 million in deferred developer fee, and $371,000 in energy rebates. Members of the Mortgage Committee approved this request unanimously.
Thank you, Pat. Can I have a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved, Heidi.
Can I have a second?
Second. Okay.
Any comments or questions?
I have a question. That's
Sure.
Phil. I see the name Metro Realty a lot, and I mean, I know of them and know them. Are we concerned what percentage of our overall multifamily is tied up with them, and are we concerned with them if it's a great percentage of being, a developer? Do we underwrite for that?
We do. And the total exposure at this point for current outstanding loan balances is below $70 million. So it doesn't rise at this point to the level of a level of concern.
And what is that as a total of our overall outstanding? Is it 2%, 5%, 10%?
Well, even it's less than that. We have our multifamily portfolio is in excess of 1.5 billion.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Sure.
Any other question? Okay, Dawn, please do roll call.
Yes. Jerry Abrahams,
Right.
Cindy Butts, Phil DeFranzo,
Sorry, yes.
Thank you. Heidi DeWeingart,
Aye.
Claudio Gualtieri,
Yes.
Timothy Hodges,
Aye.
Catherine McKinnon,
Aye.
Commissioner Mosquera Bruno,
Yes,
Commissioner Perez, Franklin Perry,
Yes.
Matt Puglisi,
Yes.
Chelsea Ross,
Yes.
Sarah Sanders,
Yes.
Lisa Tepper Bates,
Yes,
Greg Ugalde.
Aye.
Vote passes unanimously.
motion carries. Thank you, Dawn. Pat, could you move to the next resolution, please?
On Tuesday at Mortgage Committee, Trayvon Perry presented a request for financing for Cheshire Highlands in Cheshire. This request included a mortgage of up to $18 million from taxable bonds in the two-note structure. The first is a construction note of up to $12.4 million payable interest only at a rate of up to 7.25% for a term of 24 months. And the second is a construction of perm note of up to $5.6 million at a rate of up to 7.15%. Payable interest only during the 24-month construction period and followed by a 35-year term with a 40-year amortization. In addition, the request included a mortgage from opportunity funds of up to $1 million at a rate not to exceed 1%, payable interest only during the initial 24-month construction term, and then accruing during the 35-year term, payable with 25% of adjusted cash flow after the payment of deferred developer fee. Cheshire Highland also received a 9% LIHTC award in the 2024 round. This is also being developed by Metro Realty Group, and Metro is committed to closing this transaction as well within 90 days of this board approval. The project will consist of 71 units. 14 units will be at or below 30% of AMI, 29 at or below 50%, 13 at or below 80%, and there will be 15 unrestricted units. In addition to the requested CHFA financing, the capital stack includes just under $14 million in LIHTC equity, $5.5 million in DOH funds, $700,000 in the form of a general partner note, $1.05 million in deferred developer fee, and $311,000 in energy rebates. Members of the mortgage committee approved this request unanimously.
Thank you, Pat. Any comments or questions?
Commissioner, this is a
Chelsea?
Go ahead, Chelsea.
thank you. A question related to Cheshire, but also as it relates to the New Britain Avenue, which we just approved. I noticed both are utilizing state rental assistance funds to support Department of Developmental Services folks through supportive housing. And I'm curious, I'm assuming those folks are coming off the DDS wait list, and curious about the department's goals around production for this population and sort of like need overall of their wait list, if you have any of that information to share.
I can get your response to that, Chelsea. I'm not prepared to answer that question today.
Great, thank you.
Take a little research.
And Chelsea, we have the wait list, so I will ask the staff to send you, because the Department of Housing is working in collaboration with the Department of Developmental Services, and they have shared some of the wait list as they requested more additional funding to the legislators.
Great, it's been a couple of years since I kind of had my pulse on how large that wait list is for supportive housing. So I'd be interested to see how large it is in comparison to sort of what we're able to set aside and produce for those folks. Thank you.
Specifically for DDS that you're talking about, right?
Yeah, I'm always curious about everybody, but as it relates to these two projects, DDS would be great.
We'll do that. Thanks.
Yeah, Commissioner, this is, hi, it's Lisa Tepper Bates, and Chelsea, thanks. We discussed that very question a little bit in the mortgage committee, but I did just want to flag that I'd be curious to understand their wait list better. I'm not a big believer that a wait list is actually a good way to judge what the real demand is. It may or may not be. So I'd like to ask that we don't just assume that the wait list is the right way to think about what the universe is of people in Connecticut who need that resource. I'd like to think in a little bit more sophisticated terms about that. And as I've said in previous meetings, I feel the same way about all of the different types of permanent supportive housing as well. I think that's true with regard to homelessness too. I think we should have the best possible idea of what numbers we're going for in each category, including deeply affordable, and then be able to assess as a board where we are with regard to getting to that goal. And I want to thank Pat, who I know is working hard on that. And again, just offer any insights or help that I, or I'm sure other board members here, might be able to provide. I think we want to help if there's a way to do that. But I think that information is really important overall. Thank you.
Yeah, and I can just add to that, Lisa, you're absolutely right. We can't just rely on wait list because people goes to many different wait lists. So might be 3 or 4 times on different wait lists, whether are for housing authorities or any other wait list on services. But right now the department is working with the Interagency Council, and we have hired a consultant that is actually looking into the HMIS, because we have all the reports are thrown around that we have about 4,000, a little over 4,000 people homeless. That wait list is cumulative from many years. So it's really not a reliable source in the way that is being projected. So the consultants are actually looking into HMIS, how it's working, and doing evaluation of the whole system. And we will come back with some, they will come back with some recommendations to how really manage a wait list. I know that Massachusetts has done it in a different way. They manage the wait list on a 90 days basis. And if somebody is not active within those 90 days, then they remove that person. So we're looking in a couple of Massachusetts, Minnesota, some of the states that are doing some work based on that HMIS, but we will keep you informed. It will take us probably another 2-3 months to be able to come out with some evaluation and some results of that.
Commissioner, I just want to, maybe I'm not correct on this, but as I understand, funding for the state rental assistance program, while DOH administers that, there are other, I believe DCF and DDS also contribute. So I understand that our ability to serve populations is also tied to what budget dollars maybe other agencies are sort of giving, maybe not the right word, the Department of Housing to administer. So I know that takes comes into play too as to how do the total pie of state rental assistance dollars are divvied up. So I think that's helpful information to have as we look at need, and maybe some special populations have outsized utilization of rental assistance, but because there's money set aside to support those specific folks.
Yeah, and we'll keep track of those. Anytime you want to take a look at it, I'll tell Steve to send you something.
Great, thank you, Commissioner.
You're welcome. Any other comments?
Just one quick point. Phil had brought up, this is Metro now on both of these, but part of the discussion does involve the site contractors, the management teams, the way that their capital is being used, and it is watched because it's a great point. We have to make sure that we're able to set up successful situations. And when the team put this together in both cases, it was looked at and scrutinized very closely, each one separately and then together, because when you get an active player like Metro, we do have to keep an eye on that. That was a really good point.
Thank you, Greg. Point well taken, and I think the staff takes these comments very seriously, and they will be watching and looking out for the best way to manage those issues. Pat, next resolution. Oh, sorry. Hey, Dawn, could you do roll call, please?
Motion to approve.
Oh,
Thank you, Greg.
Second.
Yeah.
Heidi.
Thank you, Heidi.
Sorry,
Alright.
Commissioner.
Jerry Abrahams,
Aye.
Cindy Butts, Phil DeFranzo,
Yes.
Heidi DeWeingart,
Aye.
Claudio Gualtieri,
Yes.
Timothy Hodges,
Aye.
Catherine McKinnon,
Aye.
Commissioner Mascara Bruno,
Yes.
Commissioner Perez, Franklin Perry,
Aye.
Matt Puglisi,
Yes.
Chelsea Ross,
Yes.
Sarah Sanders,
Aye.
Lisa Tepper Bates,
Yes.
Greg Ugalde.
Aye.
The vote passes unanimously.
Motion carries. Thank you, Don. Pat, the resolution regarding the Housing Authority Resident Program?
Yes. On Tuesday, Karen Fatoma presented a request for the approval of the allocation of $1 million from recycled CIA funds in the amount of $250,000 per year for the next 4 years for the funding of a Housing Authority resident program designed to replace the former HACCP initiative that was approved by the board in 2011. The former HACCP initiative was offered to housing authorities in the state-sponsored housing portfolio for both capital improvements and for program funding. $1.6 million in total was accessed and spent by 61 different housing authorities, with over 6,100 units being served through 271 grants. This replacement program will provide grants focused on the resident program funding only. The individual awards will be between $1,000 and $10,000 per property annually, providing a minimum of 25 awards per year. There are adequate other funds available for capital improvements as provided by DOH. Staff has already begun modifying the existing HACCP program description and protocols and hopes to be in a position to roll this out to the housing authorities shortly after your approval. The Mortgage Committee unanimously, quite enthusiastically approved this request on Tuesday. I'll take any questions.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to approve resolution presented by Pat?
So moved, Kathy.
Second, Lisa.
Any comments or questions? Hearing none, Dawn, could you do a roll call, please?
Of course. Jerry Abrahams,
Aye.
Cindy Butts, Phil DeFranzo,
Yes.
Heidi DeWeingart,
Aye.
Claudio Gualtieri,
Yes.
Timothy Hodges,
Aye.
Catherine McKinnon,
Aye.
Commissioner Mascara Bruno,
Yes.
Commissioner Perez, Franklin Perry,
Yes.
Matt Puglisi,
Yes.
Chelsea Ross,
Yes.
Sarah Sanders,
Aye.
Lisa Tepper Bates,
Aye.
Greg Ugalde.
Aye.
The vote passes unanimously.
Thank you, Dawn. We have the last resolution that Pat is going to present is the proposed amendments to the multifamily program procedures. Pat, could you go ahead?
Sure. On Tuesday afternoon, members of the multifamily department led by Jenna Zacharight presented a request to publish notice of CHFA's intention to adopt amendments to its procedures as related to the multifamily programs and activities. It was noted that the effort to amend these, the multifamily sections of the procedures began at the start of this year. Numerous members of multifamily staff, along with the assistance of our legal department, performed a very thorough and complete review of all the sections of the procedures that relate to multifamily functions. At times, those efforts required a word-by-word review. As a result, multifamily is recommending changes that will provide greater flexibility in the performance of our daily functions, but also more importantly, will allow us to more readily and timely respond to our ever-changing and rapidly changing markets. A couple of examples of some of the more substantive changes that are being proposed is the reinstatement of the Small and Emergency Loan Committee, which is designed to delegate approval authority for smaller transactions to a designated committee of CHFA executive leadership team members. Staff will make a recommendation as to the limitations that it's recommending through a separate resolution at the September board when we present the final amendments for approval. Second example is we are removing the actual specific developer fee calculation and sliding scale from the procedures and moving it down to the multifamily underwriting guidelines to give us the flexibility to be able to change those calculations in response to the market. There will be a limitation in the, there will be a limitation as to the total amount available in the procedures. It was noted that in accordance with statutory requirements, it's necessary for the Connecticut Department of Revenue Services to review and approve amendments to the procedures as related to the Housing Tax Credit Contribution Program, and that those proposed changes have already been presented to, reviewed by, and approved by the Commissioner of DRS. The recommendation before you is the publishing of the notice of CHFA's intent to adopt the proposed amendments and provide a public comment period. Upon approval, CHFA will cause that notice to be published for 30 days. At the end of the public comment period, any public comments determined by CHFA staff to be appropriate will be incorporated into the final version. We will then present, we then anticipate presenting the final amended procedures at the September board meeting for adoption. Included in your package are summaries of the changes proposed and redline versions of each applicable section of the procedures. If there are any questions that come up during the next 30 days, you can present them to us and we can answer those for you. Members of the Mortgage Committee unanimously approve the request to publish the proposed changes to the procedures.
Thank you, Pat. Can I have a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Can I have a
Second.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, Dawn, could you please do roll call?
Yes. Jerry Abrahams.
Aye.
Cindy Butts. Phil DeFranzo.
Yes.
Heidi DeWeingart.
Aye.
Claudio Gualtieri.
Yes. Sorry about that.
That's all right. Thank you. Timothy Hodges.
Aye.
Catherine McKinnon.
Aye.
Commissioner Mascara Bruno.
Yes.
Commissioner Perez. Franklin Perry.
Yes.
Matt Puglisi.
Yes.
Chelsea Ross.
Yes.
Sarah Sanders.
Yes.
Lisa Tepper Bates.
Yes.
Greg Ugalde.
Aye.
Vote passes unanimously.
Motion carries. Thank you, Don. The next item, last item on our agenda is the consent agenda. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved, Claudio.
I have a second.
Second, Chelsea.
Comments or questions? Hearing none, Dawn, could you do roll call?
Yes. Jerry Abrahams.
Aye.
Cindy Butts. Phil DeFranzo.
Yes.
Heidi DeWeingart.
Aye.
Claudio Gualtieri.
Aye.
Timothy Hodges.
Aye.
Kathy McKinnon. Catherine, I didn't hear you. I'll come back. Commissioner Mascara Bruno.
Yes.
Commissioner Perez. Franklin Perry.
Yes.
Matt Puglisi. Chelsea Ross.
Yes.
Sarah Sanders. Lisa Tepper Bates.
Aye.
Greg Ugalde.
Aye.
Let me just circle back to a couple of folks, make sure that I didn't miss someone coming off of mute. Catherine McKinnon.
Aye.
Thank you. Matt Puglisi. And Sarah Sanders. Thank you. The vote passes unanimously.
Thank you, Dawn. Motion carries. Before we adjourn the meeting, any board member has any question or comments that were not addressed during the agenda, is the opportunity to say something. Or not. All right. Well, to the staff, thank you very much for all your work. Great name change. Looking forward to the material. And I would like to ask for a motion to adjourn the meeting. Come
So
on,
moved, Chelsea.
thank you. Have a second.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? None. Who wanted to stay?
I said, see you in a couple.
All right, well, have a great summer and thank you very much for all your work.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Yeah, bye-bye.